And I'm going to get you to do something that is very hard to find online. I'm going to get you to give me a bit of a bio about yourself.
Oh, bio about me.
I want to know who you are.
Yeah.
I want to know how old you are, where you're from.
Okay. My name is Anna Rose Holmer. I directed The Fits. I am 30. I'm about to be 31 in a week. And I grew up in upstate New York, and I live in Brooklyn, New York right now.
Congratulations on The Fits.
Thank you.
I'm going to dare you to describe the film to us. Describe this movie without giving anything away.
All right. I'll try. The Fits is a genre-blending film about an 11-year-old girl named Tony who's trying to fit in with this dance team. It's a bit coming of age. It's a bit body horror, psychological thriller, magical realist, spiritual transcendent film, and it's pretty much how I describe it is it's a dance film from frame one to closing credits.
And of course, when you say dance film, you're saying that with a wink because it's more than that.
Yes.
And it has a very interesting subplot that eventually builds and takes over the story. Can you just tell us, Anna, where the idea for this interesting mash of a film came from?
Yeah, the seed of the film was really The Fits. The title of the film refers to these kind of strange kind of spells that start to take over. And as you said, it really is the B plot of the film. But that was kind of my entry point. I was really fascinated by these cases from medieval times to modern day, these kind of contagions. And I started looking at patterns, and they mostly were happening in groups of adolescent girls where there was kind of a strong hierarchy, social status. And I said, that's really interesting. And I started thinking about using that as a allegorical entry point into making a film about adolescence.
This is the first feature film that you've directed?
Correct.
Right. And what was your previous experience with filmmaking? You've worked pretty extensively for someone who's 30 on a wide range of films in various departments. Just give us a broad view. I know that the closest you've come to big mainstream films is you worked as a camera assistant on Twilight.
Yeah, I was essentially a PA in the camera department there. When I was 17, I went to film school. I went to NYU to be a DP. So my whole background is in studying cinematography, and I really worked my way up in the camera department. I was a loader, a first, and then an operator. And at the time, I wanted some experience on a much bigger set. The camera department for Twilight was probably bigger than my entire crew for The Fits. And I was so minuscule, I worked on it for a few weeks, but I did get to learn a lot by seeing a film on that scale. But by no means, like I said, I was just a tiny cog in that film. But yeah, so I had my foundation in cinematography, and then I started producing and have produced mostly nonfiction features. Most recently did Ballet 422, which is directed by Jody D. Lipes, and it kind of follows the choreographic process at New York City Ballet. And then I landed here.
Your directorial style in The Fits is very interesting. You hold shots for quite a long time, and there are some very impressive uses of that technique. Most particularly, there's a scene on the bridge.
Yes.
Where the main character is basically by herself and she starts dancing, exercising. It's remarkable stuff. What's your rationale for holding shots?
Yeah, I really admire kind of simplicity as elegance, and I think that there are moments that are much more powerful to let play out in time, by cutting, you're kind of breaking the magic that you've created. And I think that, there are certainly moments that you want to punctuate, you want to articulate, and not, and kind of really point the audience where to look. And then there are other times where you want them to discover the magic. And by not cutting, you're allowing the audience to participate in a much different way. I just kind of letting the film breathe when it needs to breathe.
Anna Rose Holmer, are you, as a 30-year-old who has grown up in a cinema culture where editing every 0.6 of a second has become absolutely routine, reacting against that culture of rapid editing? Or am I trying to put words in your mouth?
Well, one of the interesting things about The Fits is that I co-wrote it with two women. One is my producer, Lisa Kuroff, and the other is my editor, Celia Davis. So she actually wrote the script with me. And having her kind of lean sensibility in the script phase, I think definitely set the tone. But for me, I don't know, I the filmmakers I admire kind of push the audience in that way. And for me, that it felt very natural to work in that way. I don't know if it's a reaction against or just a reaction towards things I like. So, yeah.
Now, there's a remarkable scene in the film that involves iPhones.
Yes.
Where iPhones are in the shot. Now, I want to know, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but again, as a 30-year-old, was that just a matter-of-fact element in the shot, or were you deliberately highlighting the weirdness of what was going on by using the iPhones?
Yeah, I really wanted to incorporate technology into the kind of pressure that the girls were experiencing. Right. So if you're having a kind of very traumatic experience and it's also simultaneously being recorded by your friends, how much more traumatic that must become. But it was a slippery slope because we wanted to introduce the visual language of mass media into the film without it taking over. So actually there's, we use the phones to record, and then later phones become a source of light. And so we use them very sparingly. But yeah, that image was one of the images that kind of came to me, was seeing her on all these phones and not really having access to the real experience, only the recorded experience.
Now, you do deserve congratulations for this film because it has been reviewed very well.
Oh, thank you so much.
In Variety magazine, Variety, and various other publications as well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
For that. I wanted to just ask you just some general questions about independent filmmaking.
Great.
Firstly, a very general question. In America, there's no government support for filmmaking, is there?
Very little government support.
Right.
There's a few grants available for documentary films. They have to fit a very specific guideline, which is that they have to be available to the public for free. So that's mostly for broadcast documentary.
Right. But by and large, nothing.
No,
You're an independent filmmaker. You can go anywhere you like for your money, but you're not going to go to the government.
Correct. That's correct.
It's very different in Australia.
And most places.
That's fair enough. Now, this film is being described as a micro-budget film. So could you give us some idea about how big the micro-budget was and where that came from? Yeah,
we actually were funded by the Venice Biennale, and this was the third year. They give you a grant of 150,000 euros.
Right.
And that is really the only money that you're allowed to take in until the premiere in Venice. We were able to get some support after that to bring it to market, because bringing a film to a film festival is only part of the cost. Now bringing it to audiences around the world in terms of licensing and mixing, and we've added some value into the film since then. But they were our key funders, and really the big champion of making this film. We went to Italy for money.
So how long was the shoot?
We shot for 20 days.
How did you do it? How did you do that? How did you make a feature film in that amount of time? It's remarkable.
It was extremely generous kind of support from the community and my team, my crew. It was kind of a passion project every day. I'm still blown away that we did it on that timeline. The timeline was very, very tight, and our edit was only about 12 weeks. So, that kind of pressure never got off.
What kind of favors did you have to pull in order to get this movie made?
Really just making sure that the people who I really respect, like my DP Paul Yee, our composers Danny Bensi and Sandra Jurians, like really Celia Ralston Hall, who is our movement consultant. Those big creative voices, those were favors to ask, working far below their rate. And for me, it was about inviting them in to share the process. The other kind of huge thing that we couldn't have made this film without was the actually community center where we shot. We shot the entire film in that building, and they were so generous. We had our production office in that building, and we really made it kind of a community event, was making this movie.
Right. Do you find in America that people are really happy and willing to help out filmmakers, or is there a resistance, or are people like, hey, yeah, you're making a movie, what can we do to help?
I think generally people are excited to be part of any kind of story, but it really depends on your approach. You have to go in and make it a communal event. It's not just about coming in and taking. And that was really at the forefront of our philosophy as a crew, was to involve people and to share the experience and not just come in and take whatever you could get. And
what does the independent filmmaking world feel like at the moment? You're in it. You're part of it. What's the feeling at the moment? Because the studios up until recently had divisions producing what they consider to be more independent art house type films. A lot of them have closed down now. I think pretty much most of them have.
Yeah.
What's the vibe at the moment in the independent film world?
I think that there's all these shifting models. People are really starting to question the entire system. It's not just how to get a film financed, but how does it get to an audience? There's online distributions, there's day and date. At Sundance this year, Amazon and Netflix were the big buyers, and how is that changing the landscape? So it kind of feels like we're in this lawless, no rules, anything goes. And I think some people maybe are panicked about that, but for me it's exciting because I think that a lot of voices that have been on the fringe or the outside that maybe weren't part of that initial system, that studio system that you're talking about, are finding a way to make work, get to audiences, and that's what I'm pumped about.
Are you aware of how important independent films are to people who see lots of movies? For instance, but I'm going to be praising X-Men Apocalypse because it has an idea in it.
Yeah.
And that's to contrast with so many of the things that we must see on the big screen, that there's just a vacuity of ideas and there's such a lack of originality. Are you aware that it's independent film where people tend to see the most interesting and novel and challenging ideas rather than in mainstream film?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I want to work in independent film, is because you can take risks and express a deep desire, fantasy, a radical idea, and express it in cinema. And it's not getting watered down to make a better poster or a better trailer. It's about what lives on screen in that film. And
do you want to move to the mainstream?
Well, I want my work to be seen by as wide of an audience as possible.
So what I'm asking, as a director, do you want to make mainstream films?
That's what I think mainstream means, access to audience. And so, yes, but I also want to continue to make films in my own voice. And I think that the kind of old system doesn't work anymore. So what mainstream may be in 10 years might be really different than what we think of mainstream right now.
Are you in a playful mood? Okay,
sure.
Bit of role playing. You play yourself.
Okay.
I'm going to play a studio executive.
Uh-huh.
Hello, is this Anna?
Yes.
Hello, Anna. Anna, I'm a big shot studio executive from a major studio. I've been watching your lovely little independent films.
Uh-huh.
I think you've got a lot of talent. Would you like to direct a sequel of a sequel to a comedy hit we made 5 years ago?
No, thank you.
Are you sure? We're going to pay you a lot of money. We're going to pay you more money for this movie than you probably ever made in your life.
I think the question is, does the film need to exist?
Oh, it's a sequel of a sequel. Of course it doesn't.
So no.
We're only making it because we want to make money, because the brand is a money maker for us. We know that we can put out 92 minutes of leader tape with this title and it'll make money. So it's a shoo-in for you. It'll open a lot of doors for you. It'll give you a lot of cred, at least in the sequel making business here in Hollywood. You'll bump up a lot of credentials. You'll probably end up on the B list there. Anna, You want to come over?
Well,
I understand you're making a lovely little drama about toxic waste victims or something. You want to just drop that and come and work for us?
No, I'm just not interested in making cinema that isn't making a statement. So, yeah.
There's a lot of talk at the moment, as there should be, about diversity in Hollywood, and with issues concentrating on race and on gender as well. How conscious are you as a young woman working in the industry about the diversity issue regarding women?
I mean, it's something you live with every day. And I think it's great that it's becoming a talking point. I hope that talking point translates into action and change in the industry. I think that audiences want and demand different perspectives, and it's going to change. If you look at the numbers, it's atrocious. And I hope that I can be part of the changing statistics.
Well, the numbers are a joke. The numbers are within the margin of error.
Yeah.
Which is like worse than negligible.
Yeah.
I mean, in mainstream, it's like 3% or something.
Yeah. No, and then if you look at, that's for women, and if you look at for the numbers for women of color, it's like 1.3. And that's not acceptable.
Do you call yourself a feminist, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I believe in equality, and therefore I'm a feminist.
Anna Rose Holmer. Am I pronouncing your name properly?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.